Hello, 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 beautiful people, and welcome back to another live experience. We are excited that you decided to join us today. If you are with us live, if you can help us out, we've been battling with some technical issues. So if you're with us live and you can hear me and you are riding with us, please do drop your city in the chat. It helps us to know, one, that all of our technology is doing what it needs to do, but it also helps us know who is listening. So if you're with us live, please do drop your city in the chat just so I know that you can hear me and that we are on with the right people that we're supposed to be on with. So while we're waiting for that, it has been a little bit of a shift. You all see that we're here live on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. We made that shift just for the month of June. We want to see how that works for folks. We want to see if being live in person, or virtually, I should say, on Wednesdays is better than Tuesdays. We know that schedules tend to shift this time of the year. We wanted to take full advantage of the opportunity to meet folks where they are and take advantage of being able to join us live on a Wednesday. So I'm really discussing here, which is always going to be a little bit off the beaten path. There are a lot of taboo topics that I feel like I absolutely want to discuss. And we have the opportunity and the flexibility and the freedom to be able to do that, which I feel really fortunate for. And it looks like we have folks that are joining us from Philadelphia. So welcome. Crystal Carson is joining us live. Appreciate that. It lets us know that we're where we need to be and the people are with us. So shout out to you, Crystal, for joining us live. So I'm going to jump in because this is something that doesn't really need more introduction, right? We don't need a whole bunch of pomp and circumstance to really get into this topic because we're all experiencing it in a very real way in this economy. So many of you know I'm Leah Murphy. I am the CEO of Career Gems for the Journey, where we help professionals build thriving careers. Welcome if you're joining us for the first time, and welcome if you've been a rider with us for a while and you're continuing to find value in this experience. We love this for you, and we love it for anybody who is listening on the replay. So there are a lot of organizations that are making really significant shifts, and it's something that I can't keep my arms around in order to be able to measure. But the truth is, it is having a direct impact on a number of employees, and that's really how psychological safety is showing up at work. And when we talked about psychological safety, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was more about the culture inside of the organization and how leaders set a tone for what was acceptable about how people connected in meetings, what were people's tone, how did collaboration and transparency. It was all this idea of big workplace culture concepts. But now what we're seeing more than ever is different. We are seeing that organizations are making significant changes to employee benefits. And many of us would have seen just recently that Deloitte and Zoom made a significant choice to eliminate benefits. And those benefits were around paid family leave, and that paid family leave, as well as um, fertility support or IVF support for their employees. And what that has meant for a number of people is that I thought that I was at an organization that had one set of priorities, and then they show me through their actions that their priorities have changed. And these employee benefit shifts or the employee benefit takeaways has really sent a shockwave through the knowledge worker or white collar worker industry. It's this idea that I joined the company maybe because I liked the title, I liked the role, but the benefits really got me there. Or maybe the compensation or the salary wasn't where it needed to be, but these other benefits were significant. And that's why I decided to say yes to this organization. And a lot of companies have put a lot of the total compensation benefits elsewhere, not directly in salary. So it's important, not because tons of people that are in our client group work for Deloitte or that may be listening to us live, but because when big companies take these kinds of actions, smaller companies will respond, right, in a way that allows them to do a similar thing. So I want to call it out. There's someone that there's a creator that I follow on Instagram, Cagebird HR, and she actually, and I'm paraphrasing, said something like, when big companies have this behavior, smaller companies will, do the same and follow suit. So then there's a shift that happens across the board. And when she said that, it just reminded me that the standards and the bar that are set for large organizations are very much driven by external pressure, cultural perceptions, or the narrative that they're trying to create for themselves. So the idea that large companies can create a narrative that it is acceptable to eliminate benefits that employees had gotten accustomed to or maybe joined the organization because of, tells me that they don't see themselves as responsible to employees, or they certainly don't see themselves as focusing on retention, because most of benefits are tools to retain top employees or to attract top employees. So it goes back to this idea that we had a perception of what the workplace would look like in this day and time, and it's constantly being redesigned right before our eyes. So if you're feeling like the workplace is not as safe as it once was for you and for the life that you are living, you're not alone. I wanted to just call it out because I'm getting lots and lots of requests and just inquiries from people who are navigating situations and feeling like, I'm feeling rattled. I'm feeling like I have no idea what's up or down, and I'm feeling unsafe in my job. And not unsafe like physically, but unsafe like my role could potentially be eliminated, or there could be a restructure, or there's so much uncertainty that employees are navigating. And I want to make sure that we just acknowledge that that is real. For many of us, it is, even if you don't experience a layoff or a restructure, you're often left behind in an organization that is very flat. Your career progression maybe isn't as certain. Your ability to garner or get more compensation, to get a promotion, to transition into other roles. This idea of a dynamic career that allows you flexibility to move and change and grow and evolve is beginning to slip away. So many people, even though they're still in the companies that they're in, are mourning what used to be a really thriving, robust opportunity for a career. And they're trying to figure out how to plan forward and what's next. So I'll just give you guys a quick example of this. And if there's anyone who is joining us live, because I see there's some other folks who are with us live today. Hi, Benita. If you've experienced this, or you've ever navigated a layoff or a restructure, and even if you were laid off, or if you were not laid off or separated from the organization, but you may have had some survivors consequences, right? Now you are picking up more work because roles were eliminated and now your workload is heavier, or maybe even there's just a ton of uncertainty in your day-to-day because you used to have a coworker to be able to support you, or you used to have someone who could help you manage upstream or downstream or whatever it was, and now you're flying solo, or your team went from 8 to 5. And I got a call yesterday and from one of my clients, and she basically explained that she got a call on her personal cell phone from her manager. And she missed the call because she was otherwise occupied. She had the day off. And when she got back and saw that her manager had called her on her personal cell, a wave of panic set through, right? This idea of like, why is he calling me? What's going on? The assumption that there was bad news coming was almost immediate. And she gets herself together. She returns the call to her manager, basically asks, hey, I'm calling you back. And her manager tells her that the administrator in her department, who she worked with closely, that the administrator's role had just been eliminated effective immediately. So that the next time she was in the office, that administrator was going to be gone. And there was really no recourse that was happening. This was very much a call to inform her that this had already happened. The decision had been made and it had already been shared with the employee that was going to be separated. So there's tons of questions, right, that kind of flood in. How many other roles were eliminated? Is my job safe? Why are all these things happening right now? And I think we may be able to rationalize and get to the point where we can understand why these things are happening, even though it's not the choice that we would make, right? We're not in the decision making seat. But the idea that you might be able to ask these questions or probe or really, try to get a deeper understanding from your manager when these kinds of decisions get made. She did not feel safe to ask those kinds of questions. She didn't feel safe to ask, is my role coming up next? Or, where is the work going to go because this person's job got eliminated? She absolutely felt like, I don't want to make any waves. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And the risk for having people who were otherwise high performers, innovative leaders, dynamic, super capable at what they do, but now this fear that, or this trepidation that I can't ask tough questions, or maybe I'm next, really does just, it puts a blanket over what could be a great workplace culture. It's having a direct impact on the way employees feel, on how they contribute to their work, and how they will see the company and the organization going forward as a place where it's safe to ask tough questions, to be a disruptor, to be innovative, to be a challenger. That goes away when you shift culture where people are feeling fearful or trepidatious, or that they have no idea that cuts are coming and they have no idea where the vision of the organization is going. It's so opposite to what we would have set an expectation for just 5 or 10 years ago that I think it's a shock that's really impacting people. So now you see people who are navigating a down economy, which we're all seeing. Prices are going up, and that is compelling people to stay at jobs longer than they would have out of fear or out of necessity. And it brings up this term called job hugging. And job hugging is, not an actual thing, but what it indicates is that people are staying in roles longer, and even if they're dissatisfied, even if they're frustrated, even if there are lots of reasons why they would want to leave or want to make a transition, because of the uncertainty of the job market, because of the uncertainty of the economy, people are staying longer, which means that there isn't space to get cross-functional roles or cross-functional experiences or build out a more robust career path. There is this stagnation effect. And I want to make sure that I'm really thoughtful in the way that I explain this, because these are real humans having real human experiences based on the choices and the options that they have available to them right now. And I think that job hugging and staying in a job is the safer bet for most people, but it means that this idea of the vision you had for your career may need to take a pause. It may need to evolve at this present moment. Now, there's always outliers. There's always people who are going to have dramatically positive experiences in these kinds of environments, but the overwhelming majority of people are seeing stagnation. So if that is you, I want to make sure that you understand this is not a you problem. This is a system-wide change that is changing the way we think about growing at work, and that can stop feeling safe. Your plan to make a pivot, your plan to transition, your plan to go back to graduate school, or your plan to do anything related to your career right now can start to feel unsafe because there's so much uncertainty. And that's where the psychological safety really comes in. So I want to really remind us that we are weathering what is a very tumultuous storm, and big companies and big organizations are very much at risk for no longer focusing on employee experience, for no longer focusing on retention. So I know that there are still some organizations that are doing a great job with this, and I want to make sure that we're giving examples of organizations that are doing great jobs of this, as well as giving examples of this is not, employee experience is not a priority the way it once was. So when employee experience isn't a priority, then the idea of being disruptive or being a challenger or raising tough questions or being someone who brings candor and transparency to your organization, it may not feel safe for you to do those things, because there is a shift in culture where in a lot of ways is going to hurt the long-term viability of these companies as it relates to the human experience. So what I'm hoping is we are navigating a valley and we will begin to tick back up to what feels like a more normal workplace and environment, because I want us to really be honest with ourselves that making sure that we are thoughtful on our resources and thoughtful of how we're moving in the workplace. And this is something that women and people of color and marginalized communities have been doing all along, right? We've always had to be very thoughtful about our professional interactions because there's cultural awareness that we have that sometimes our counterparts just don't have. But now the data is coming in more and more. And now we're seeing more and more studies that are showing that workplace culture is less of a priority than it was years ago. So that means that we have to make a different set of choices of how we accelerate our career. That means we're going to be relying more on building our external network in order to make sure that we continue to have viable, dynamic career experiences. That means that as we look to, grow and connect with other people, professional organizations play a bigger role. Attending, conferences and building external networks with peers is going to be more important than ever. Those experiences that once were a company benefit that they may provide for you, now that is something that you may have to provide for yourself, or you may have to figure out how to leverage really intentionally as an individual. Because if family leave benefits are potentially at risk and fertility benefits are at risk, then that means other benefits remain at risk. That means professional development dollars, or that means other organizational benefits that you saw and that you may have been able to leverage are at risk. So while you still have them, take full advantage of them. Take full advantage of every dollar you can that will be attributed to education, professional development, networking, any way that you can enrich yourself and build a better skill set for yourself now while the benefit is available to you. Do it now. Reprioritize things that you may have said, okay, well, I'll wait until 2027, or maybe I'll get around to it. How about you reevaluate whether now is a good time for you to make that happen while the benefits are still in place? And this is not an idea of fear. This is the idea of we see change on the horizon. So how do we take action while the change is on the horizon so that we can leverage every single benefit we have at our fingertips right now? So I want to, it's just reminding me that external pressure for organizations made a big difference. When I say external pressure, one big company wants to be perceived a certain way. That big company says, I want to add these benefits because that helps me to attract great talent. As soon as that big company says that's no longer a priority for me, and the pressure that once employee experience put on them goes away, then you will see a wholehearted shift. So I don't think that this is the end of changes and restructuring, that roles will be eliminated and that benefits will go away. I actually think that we are navigating a valley of employee experience, and I hope that we come out of that valley and that great organizations that really still believe in people and really center the human experience and are using artificial intelligence alongside human experience and human intelligence will really rise to the top. And they'll demonstrate that investment over time. But right now, the waters are messy. They're rough. The waters are rocky. So as you're navigating this, I want you to know, one, that you're not alone in navigating. Maybe your workplace doesn't feel as safe as it used to, as far as you being a challenger, a disruptor, asking tough questions, making sure that we are trying to go above and beyond. It may not feel safe to do that for you right now. And if it doesn't, you're not alone. And two, for every employee benefit that you currently see, that you currently have access to, make the most of it as quickly as you possibly can, because benefits are not guaranteed. And sometimes, for employees, we didn't see them as just perks. We thought that this was a promise made to us by the organization, and we took that promise as a reason to stay at that organization. And now we understand that that is negotiable. that is fluid, and we may see other examples of benefits that we once thought were ours and were guaranteed. We'll see them as no longer guaranteed. So I want you to maintain your own repository of where you want to double down and invest to make sure that your benefits are fully leveraged. If there's any digital learning platforms that you have access to now, take advantage of them. If there's any internal certifications that your company is offering, take advantage of that. If there is any leadership development programs or professional development coaching or conferences that your company is offering you access to now, take advantage of them and make it a priority for you to consistently take advantage of those benefits in the now, because we see a tide turning. So we want to make sure that not only the compensation that you were promised and the benefits being a part of your total compensation, those things actually you get a value from. And we might not be able to quantify it in dollars, but we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of those benefits so that you are, if there is a change, you've been on the front end of taking all the leverage you can to grow your career, to make sure that you're continuing to develop and get the right exposure, and to avoid being in a position where benefits are taken or restructured and you didn't get a chance to fully leverage them. Because the truth of the matter is, cultures are shifting real time. And some of them are shifting, honestly, in a way that's not going to focus on employee experience. We can kind of see the indicators that large organizations are going to do what's in their best interest. And I want to encourage you to do what's in your best interest too. You are still great. You are still talented. You still have amazing ideas. You still have the ability to be, transformative. You can still be an amazing fixer. You can still add value to your organization. However, the culture or the desire for what you may have brought at a period in time could be shifting. And that's not you thinking outside of what is normal. That is a real evidence-based, documented shift around culture and employee experience. And 2026 has presented tons and tons and tons of examples of that shifting. So I am wanting to end this on a positive note so that we feel like, what can we do? What is in our control? What actions can we take? And I think the action we can take is always, number one, feeling like you are not waiting for an organization to change in order for you to respond to that change. You can anticipate or read the tea leaves and see what changes you need to make in order for you to be successful in your organization. And I love the idea of you taking your own professional development into your hands in 2026 and directing where you want to invest your time and how you want to leverage your employee benefits as the first stop. The second thing that I think, or the third thing that I think is really important, is really going out of your way to create psychological safety for yourself, for your peers, and for your teams, so that you're sending a clear signal as a leader in your organization that your priorities have not shifted in your value of human behavior and the human experience, and that you're still open to collaborate. You're still open to work with people. That will send a positive signal as your microculture inside of your team, and it can make a big difference in you being able to retain top talent. But as organizations make their decisions and employee experience and retention become lower priorities, we can see that there's going to be shifts internally and the dynamics are going to change. And I want to make sure that organizations who are making the change for business reasons have someone to support them in creating the right employee experience transition. And as they do that, that they're being thoughtful so that they can retain the right people, so that they do have transparency, that they do have strong communication as to the why behind the decisions being made. So psychological safety doesn't mean everybody agrees. It doesn't mean that everybody gets along all the time. It doesn't mean that they kumbaya. It means that we are thoughtful in how decisions that are made at the top of the organization are going to affect people throughout the organization. And the vibration that comes from one change is acknowledged and felt and properly resourced. So I want to make sure that we are equipped and thoughtful about what it is we're doing and how we're investing. And I want to continue to support you, especially as you're trying to learn artificial intelligence and figure out how you can use artificial intelligence to grow your career, to really build out a skill set that you otherwise may not have had. You'll see the QR code on the screen. We are offering our AI workshop beginning at the end of this month. At the end of June, we will offer that workshop, and anyone who has signed up via the QR code or at our website at gemsforthejourney.org, you will have what we now are certain is an amazing experience learning core skills and competencies with leveraging artificial intelligence and AI alongside human intelligence and your subject matter expertise. And I know that it can be a game changer as we evolve our career landscape. So I'm excited for that, and I want to support you. Go and sign up right now, scan the QR code, sign up for that course, and we'll be sending you updates, immediately following. So we want to make sure that you appreciate and we appreciate you, but that we are all acknowledging that we're on rocky waters now, and we're going to be able to weather this storm. We'll weather this storm together as we continue to build community and collaborate with one another. So we appreciate you riding with us today. And I am looking forward to seeing you the next time that we are back together next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, make your journey work for you.